Hi, this is Mick Price here. We can get us Victorians where we belong, on top. Look, I think it's going to be a great concept with lots of nice horses to follow. I think there is a couple of absolute essential things that we need to train good horses for good people and get them into good races. And that is expertise, which clearly we have. Over $105 million in prize money, 38 Group 1s, over 250 stakes winners, and the show rolls on. With Michael Kent Jr. on board, I think we've got all our bases covered. I don't want to be a big trainer. We only train 75 at Caulfield and 25 at Warrnambool, but I want to be a better trainer every single day. I think we have the facilities, as you can see on this. We have the water walkers, the beach, the treadmills. In this modern day of horse training, we need to train around concussion. We need to baby our young horses. If they can be 2-year-olds, we'll get them to be 2-year-olds. If they need to be 3, we'll get them to 3. We've trained Derby winners, Blue Diamond winners, Caulfield Guineas winners, 1,000 Guineas winners. There's nothing we can't train. We just need the right horse to walk in the door. We've got the facilities. We've got the expertise. Vote us in. We can do the job. We can get us Victorians where we belong. Top of the podium. Good luck.
Well, that is exactly the attitude that the VIC Hustlers owners lapped up from Mick Price and Michael Kent Jr., stating that he never really wanted to be the biggest, but I can tell you what, he's certainly one of the best. Welcome, everyone, to this special webinar for VIC Hustlers owners and members of the TRL. It's terrific to have your company, and that just seems like ancient history when the leading trainers around the country pitched to be part of the TRL, the Racing League, and actually train for you. And we are lucky enough, we are blessed to have people the caliber of Mick Price on board, in particular with the VIC Hustlers. Over the next 25 minutes or so, we're going to delve into what makes Mick so successful, particularly with the juveniles. But not only that, he's not content, Mick Price, just to train 2-year-old winners and win Group 1s with the 2-year-olds. He then wants to kick them on and turn them into star sires. And he's done that on many occasions. In fact, with 3 sires in the space of 12 months, the likes of Extreme Choice, Flying Artie, and Tarzino. And they become 20, 30, maybe $40 million colts. That's the dream, and racing's all about the dream. And we're very excited with a colt we actually have with Mick Price. But first, let's say hello to Mick. Hello, Mick. That was a fair wrap, I've got to say.
Hello, boys. Yes, thank you. Well, all true, of course.
Always. And Steve Brown also joins us on the line, of course, the CEO of the Racing League. We are lucky to have him, Steve.
We are. We've got ourselves not only a guy that delivers big results, but he'll absolutely tell it how it is. And yeah, it's great to have Mick leading the charge there for the Hustlers.
Mick, many people have switched on, and we're going to be chatting about Eureka Storm a little bit later in the program, but we want to get down to the, I know they call boxing the sweet science, but this sweet science really of developing a yearling into a 2-year-old, the 2-year-old getting to the track, then getting to that Group 1 glory as you've done, and then even beyond that, turning it into a star in the barn, the Stallion barn. So firstly, what's the secret? It's got to be simple.
Yeah, you know what? As a trainer, I think you've got to like your colts. You've got to embrace the colts. You've got to train colts in a certain environment. You can't train them in big open yards. You can't train them in big open paddocks. You want them to be 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, sprint the mile of Derby sort of horses. Colts can get themselves into trouble a lot. You need to read their temperament. You need to read their energy. You need very, very good riders, and you need the right staff handling your colts. Have a barn there at Caulfield. I have 3 barns, and have a barn there at Caulfield set aside for colts and geldings. Fillies are not allowed in there. It's a big boot camp, but look, I probably don't have to explain the bad effect that hormones can have on you two. You've probably experienced that for yourself. But I just like my colts to be disciplined, and I like working with them. I reckon they're a real challenge. I reckon you've got to watch them every day. And like I said, you've got to have good riders and good feedback. And they are definitely a challenge. The easiest way is when they walk in, this has got to be gelded, just knock the nuts off. And, then you have these robotic, nice animals called geldings. I know the ones that need to be gelded. That's fine. If it's a lost cause and it's going to go nowhere as a colt or an entire, I know we have to geld them. But every time I want to buy a yearling, I want to buy it with a view to. I look at them sometimes and I say, what would this look like if it was a young colt going to stud? And you don't want to buy them buffy and plain. And I love my colts. They are a challenge. They're not for everybody, but I reckon we've got the right setup to handle them. And we don't win all the time with them, but at least we do have some victories.
Yeah. Steve, I guess if we go back to the Bloodstock team for the Racing League when they were at the sales, Magic Millions, and then of course the Easter sales at Inglis, were you specifically looking for, because they're a stallion conglomerates, aren't they, put together at those sales? Were you particularly the Bloodstock team looking for the next big colt?
In terms of being a stallion prospect, probably the priority for the team there is finding a horse that they think is going to be a racehorse. And we try not to complicate the instructions too much. It's really buy what you love in terms of as a racehorse. I think that probably marries into what Mick's talking about there. The two probably go hand in hand together in many cases. So, yeah, very much by the athlete, by the animal that the guys love, and then that hopefully will turn into that specimen that Mick's referencing.
Yeah, and I guess for many of our first-time owners joining us in the VIC Hustlers, if you're wondering the difference between a colt and a gelding, the old manhood's gone. So the testicles come out, unfortunately, for the athlete, and he'll go forward as a gelding. But if you're lucky enough to keep the crown jewels, God bless you. You're a big chance of making that success. You can win that Group 1. But are they all a handful, Mick? I guess the perception is that, God, this bloke's got to be gelded. He's too unruly. I can't do anything with him. I can't control him. His mind's not on the job. Let's geld him. Are there some? Have you had experience with the colts that are easy to look after, and then the ones that are just absolute bulls?
Yeah, so this is the thing when I'm saying you need to be there every morning and you need to read your horses. Look, I persevere with their temperaments to the last point usually. And just because a colt comes in and he's a bit stupid as a young horse doesn't mean he's always going to be that way. We give them their chance, but you've got to remember, they're 500 kilos of fuel and hormone and temperament and aggression. And, aggression and from colts that want to dominate the herd is something that we have to deal with. If you've got that dominant sort of colt like Tarzino, we could work with that horse, but he's very, very tough colt. We had to put a muzzle on him, otherwise he would bite, and it's not nice when you're trying to work with him. And probably the worst thing is when they get distracted in a race. You can train them, you've got them right, you've got them sound, you've got them disciplined and fit and trialed and everything else, but then in a race, they're not trying. I'll give you a perfect example, was Lankan Rupee. Now, Lankan Rupee was unusual in that he was a rig being one testicle up in the abdomen, which is a walnut-sized testicle that sits in heat. So it creates more hormone and drives them a bit mad, and one testicle down. You can breed from that sort of horse, but he went to the races and there was 3 lengths short for about 4 or 5 runs. And I just knew that he was a frustrated rig and we had to geld him, and look what he became, So there's that reason also that you've got everything right, and then they go in a race and they just switch off. So I don't know, it's a combination. I've just got to read your individual, but some settle down and some get worse. But like I said, you just got to read the play on them.
And did you ever, Mick, have the conversation with the owners with Tarzino that maybe he does need gelding, or you had that situation?
No, you know what? I enjoyed that horse. I loved his dominant manhood nature. He let everyone know every morning he was there and come out on the track. He's a very proud horse. Yeah, sure, he was a biter and he was aggressive, and you had to. We had a couple of really good attendants looking after him, and very good riders. This is the thing when you've got a pool of work riders. Like I trained 75 at Caulfield, so I probably got 12, 14 work riders at one time. So, we've got work riders specific to certain horses, which allows us to train some tough colts, But if we get a tough colt, we know what to do with them. It's just a matter of when we get through all the testing, whether they're genuine and whether they're good enough on race day. But it's something I really like. I really like it in the mornings when I'm looking at these colts trying to work them out. Like Extreme Choice, he was a little gentleman. It was a beautiful colt, Whereas Flying Artie, he was a nice horse. He wasn't too aggressive, but he had an abundance of nervous energy about him. They're just all different. Some you've got to, like Extreme Choice, we mothered him a bit. Flying Artie, I worked him normal. Tarzino had to stand all over him to keep his four legs on the ground. They're just different horses. So you just got to read them.
Yeah, it's all part of it, isn't it, Mick? Let's go back. You mentioned this 2016, this Blue Diamond, mate. Congratulations again. You wouldn't get sick of watching it, but this was just a remarkable performance with not only Extreme Choice and Flying Artie for you as a trainer quinelling it, but both of them going on then to the, to be successful sires, outstanding sires. The emotions of this day, mate, when you watch this, you had two runners and one's out the front and the other one, Flying Artie, copped a bump on the turn but flew down the middle of the track. Who were you cheering for?
Look, I just train them, and I don't bet. I don't $1 on a horse. I take a lot of risk in other ways, but excuse me. I felt really sorry for Flying Artie. He should not have run second that day. For him to get speared off the track and come back and run second, I actually reckon if they had have lined up head and head, I'm not sure which horse would have won. There wasn't a lot between them. They were both brilliant 2-year-olds. But Flying Artie did an enormous job to get back and run second. And Craig Road, Extreme Choice, good. He got on good with that horse. He had a nice run in the race and he exploded. But you look at Flying Artie's run, and I think you could say that was a better run. I always really believed in Extreme Choice as a colt. And it was funny. I had a couple of stud masters come and look at him, and because he's not overly big, they didn't sort of really see what we saw. And I remember saying to them, I know he's got fertility problems, but, that horse would be just a blast of a stallion if he was fertile. I believe, he's incredibly, his potential is incredible as a stallion, but he'll never get there because of his fertility problems. But I remember comparing him to a couple of stud masters with Biscay, which was a long time ago. But if you ever saw Biscay, he was a slight greyhound runner, and he had just that absolute speed, and that's what Extreme Choice had. So they're all different. Flying Artie was big and Extreme Choice was small, but who cares? When they go to stud, they do the job or they don't.
Yeah,
sorry, TK. On that, there is a question that we have. So once a colt put up his hand as a future stallion, and studs start making offers. So what's your involvement there, Mick, in terms of negotiating on behalf of owners? What role do you play once they're coming at you?
Yeah, the horses that I've had, like Flying Artie won the Coolmore, and he was immediately at a 20 in front of it,
Good.
Extreme, well, it was pretty simple because not a lot of studs have got that money. So you don't have 10 coming at you. You have one or two, and I say on behalf of the owners, you want to make this a big offer, and it knocks a lot of other studs out. So that was him. Extreme Choice got done in layers, with kickers. So it was a bit different there. And look, we just negotiate on behalf. You've just got to relay the information. Yeah, I don't. I'm not the great negotiator as such. I'm just the conduit between who wants to buy and what I think should happen. And I know the values of them. So I don't put up with crap values. They're good values, and we pass them on, and we give everyone the information, and at the end of it all, the right information comes out,
Yeah.
Remarkable effort, really, Flying Artie. We just saw that second in the Blue Diamond. We're now watching this Coolmore, which is a stallion making race, isn't it? He comes down, we're down the outside fence that day. He was also third in the Golden Slipper, and, still being a colt, he was always going to make a terrific sire, and he's done, exactly that. It's going to be, Steve, let's hope we've got this problem with the VIC Hustlers and Mick, but the process is it'll all be done at public auction if we're ever blessed and lucky enough to get a colt.
Yeah, that's one of the unique things about the Racing League, and we do have a rule in place which is all about trying to deliver owners transparency, because most of these stud deals, like Mick referenced, are behind closed doors, but we want to do something a little bit different here and ensure complete transparency, where if there is a situation where we do have a stallion at play, and remembering that all the proceeds do go back to the owners, that the stallion, that the horse in play has to be sold at public auction. Now, traditionally, there's really only a couple of auctions each year, but with the way the digital sales are going, that could now be at any time. So it could make for some incredible theatre if we are lucky enough to be in that situation. Obviously, it's quite rare, but if it happens, look out, because the theatre will be off the charts.
Mick, you created... Yeah, sorry, mate. The 3 in the 12 months was just remarkable. Could you believe it at the time, and the amount of care that went into it, and how much they were treated as individuals, as you've sort of touched on?
Yeah, but the other thing on this is timing. And there are certain races you need to win and can win, and you need to put a circle around that race, and all your efforts can go into one race. And that was the case with the Coolmore. That horse, you've got to time your spell, her days sometimes. You've got to time what run you have to get into the Coolmore, what run you have first up. It's okay if you have the good rating, because you can track the exact races and you know where you're going to go. But if you're trying to make a horse, sometimes it's a bit difficult if you haven't got the right rating. But yeah, look, some of the races that make the bulls as 2-year-old and 3-year-olds, there's not a lot of them. But if you have one that's capable, you have to stop everything what you're doing and get your timing absolutely spot on. And here's another thing about a stallion negotiation. You get approaches from studs before the event. So you'll get a foundation price with kickers. So when you say public auction, Steve, you got a few grey hairs coming your way. Well, it is very tricky. It is very tricky, because it's not like you go and win the race and then you put your horse up for public auction. Like, I've had a couple of these horses where, Newgate have bought them on potential. So they've laid down a foundation price. They've laid down a good deal for the existing owners, and then they've laid down some good kickers. So you might need to be a bit flexible with how you approach these things. Hopefully, it's a nice problem for you to have.
Yeah, let's hope so. I guess the difference here with the Racing League owned horses is they're owned by thousands of owners. So the need to hedge and sell some before the race is probably not as strong as a traditionally owned, where it's owned by 4 or 5 people and they need to take some risk off the table, perhaps. But you're right. Let's hope that problem presents.
You know what? We've all watched that movie, Let It Ride.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
So you just got to be careful.
I actually thought that movie, I thought it was a documentary, Mick.
It sort of is. It sort of is in the trainer's tower, it is.
It was. If you haven't seen it, get it out. Do you mind if you answer some questions from our from your owners? I should be saying. Sure. Is that okay? Some general ones first.
I've got to say hello to one of your guys that is in this sport, a guy called Peter Stansfield.
Yeah.
Peter Stansfield. His daughter is an equestrian girl called Ailey Robinson, and her daughter is Tanner. They're both very good equestrian people. So hello, Peter.
Okay. G'day, Pete, and thanks for being on board as well for the VIC Hustlers. The team's coming together very, very nicely. Tom says, a couple of general ones, but Tom says, before your horses race, do you get nervous like you're about to play a competitive sporting match, or are you just in work mode?
You know what? I get nervous. I get more nervous at track work, and I get more nervous in trials. I get more nervous before a main gallop. You know, I get short and snappy and focused, and I get in a bad place sometimes at track work when I need things to go perfect. On race day, when everything's done, it's smoother. It's a lot smoother for me because there's not a lot that I need to happen. You know, I know what needs to happen. Just put the saddle on and put the jockey on. But you know, I know what race day is all about, but honestly, I get more nervous in the mornings and more tense and strung out than I do on race day.
Yeah. Richard says, hi, Mick, thanks for your time. What is the strategy in trying to get these young 2-3-year-old colts from, stop them from becoming too colty? Is it feed? Is it training load? Question mark.
Yeah, it's a good question. I probably, like I said, they're all individuals. But if they're too aggressive, sometimes you don't win the battle. You know, if they're too stupid, you just don't win the battle. I mean, you know, there's not much we can do with them apart from, you know, I don't like to reduce the feed on a colt. I reduce it on fillies sometimes for different reasons. But, or you know, if they're too gross or too fat, I'll reduce it. We take away grain then. But the best I could do is probably just put them on a bit of low dose of cetirizine or low dose of sedation in the morning where we make them safer. You know, it's like all veterinary work. You know, they often use a bit of low-grade cetirizine to just keep the little edge on them. And what I find also is if sometimes they go through their lessons and they learn them well, if they don't learn a lesson well, they tend to get it wrong time and time again. If they learn it well, then they get it right. So by the time you take them off cetirizine, we don't use a lot of it, you know, they'll be much better horses for it, and you've got them through a period. But there's not, you know, if they're bad horses, they're difficult.
Michael says, are you looking forward to thousands of owners invading your stable on open day to see Eureka Storm?
Go COVID.
You're very good with owners. You're extremely good with owners. Steve, I know you've got some questions there too from some of the VIC Hustler owners.
Yeah, I can only imagine from those owners' perspective when you created those 3 stallions, what the ride was like for them. Was there a particular owner, sort of an emotive moment that stood out in that journey that's you know really sticks with you as you created not only Group 1 wins for them, but you're creating those $10, $20 million outcomes for them?
Look, it's all very exciting for different owners. Doesn't matter how much money they've got or who they are or what they are. It's still all very exciting. It's like any sport. And if you involve yourself in a sport and you win a grand final, the build up to it, the chat about it, the adrenaline to it. You know, we have these grand finals in racing, and this is what happens. But I would say that financially, there was a few people in Extreme Choice that they hugged me, and that wasn't always pleasant. And I remember Blue Diamond Day was a pretty hot day, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm getting germed on here. But they said, you have changed our lives with this win. And I don't know whether that means they paid off a mortgage. You know, you've got maybe bus drivers and butchers and bakers in these horses. You haven't got all millionaires. That's the beauty of the egalitarian nature of Australian racing, in that, you know, you have normal people take shares in these horses. And I guess if you're a wage earner and you're looking at a 20-year mortgage and your horse comes along and you sell your share and knock off your mortgage, it is life-changing. And it is, you know, breathtaking for them. That's what happened a few times in definitely Extreme Choice anyway. Tarzino, look, we had some nice people in Tarzino, which was good.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of lovely guys, Wilf Mueller and John Whelan Paul Whelan in Flying Artie. They raced horses together for years and years and years and years. And you never see people so excited than when they win a race. And you're not going to remember the build-up to them. You know, I suppose if you do a normal job and then you come into horse racing and it's like an explosion of colour and adrenaline and sport and the chat about it and the dream of it. And, you know, anyone that follows racing that gets involved on this side of the fence, it must be enormous. You know, I feel it. I feel it, but I also see it from other people's point of view, you know. Anyway, you'll find that there'll be people in this horse, if it's a good horse, like I think it's a nice horse at the moment, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Look, Julie says this too, you know, if you've got, when you're training a colt and you think it, you know, those offers are like that 20 million mark, or maybe a 30 million mark, what about the pressure? How tense do you get?
I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. You know what? All I need in the mornings is me, the horse, and a work rider. When I walk in the stable, all I need is my foreman, my vet, my farrier, my strappers. That's all I need. It wouldn't matter. You could give me a $50 million horse and I'll know what to do with it, you know. That part of it doesn't worry me, because at the end of the day, all I need is those things in front of me.
We've got a lot of questions, as you can imagine, Mick, about Eureka Storm, Written Tycoon, Tornado Miss was an expensive buy. Just this one comes in from Ray. Hey, Mick, what's your early opinion of Eureka Storm? City class or better, question mark. There's a lot of this sort of stuff, Mick.
Yeah, look, we progress them week by week. He's a nice horse and he's precocious to a point. I worked him the other morning with something, you know, which was really, I thought, really precocious. And I just noticed that last furlong, I mean, my sort of 2-year-old baby work is from the 600. You know, when they're educated, they go 15, 14, and then improve the last furlong. And he was nice, but I just noticed he just lost a neck in the last sort of 50 metres. Now, sometimes that extrapolates out on race day. It might be 5 or 6 lengths, you know. He's definitely a nice horse. I haven't got enough information to say exactly what type of horse he is, but I can tell you a program for him. He's going to the gates tomorrow morning, being Friday morning, on the inside grass there at Caulfield. They're baby jump outs. They're not official. They're not anything. Right. You can put 2 in, you can put 5 in. Doesn't matter. They're little practice around one corner. Then he will go to Sandown on Wednesday and have a 600-metre baby jump out, all being well. Mind you, if he's shin sore on Saturday morning, or, you know, he might go out. So I only just make a decision based on the information in front of me every day. He's precocious. He's definitely precocious. And you know what? A good thing about him, he's got a good temperament. He's a gentle horse. He wants to work with you. He's not, you know, he's not silly. He doesn't get distracted. He's a big, soft, nice colt. He's a nice guy. You know what I mean? I know what sort of horse he is, and he's pretty good so far, you know. And the fact that he has survived each week to the point where he's having a jump out Friday and possibly a approval to race certificate next Wednesday is very good sign. You know, it means he's sound enough, fast enough, and coping with all the 2-year-old things that he has to cope with.
Yeah, and I think both Steve and Mick, you know, like just for our owners who may not have been involved for a very long time. I mean, the fact that most 2-year-olds don't even get to this early stage, so many take time, and it's just, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the horse.
No. Well, you know, they are what they are. Just train them. You know, we give them 2-year-old preps and we know what works and what doesn't. So if in the class of 2-year-olds, you've got some not coping, it's just the horse. Tip them out. And people confuse sometimes speed with maturity. You can have fast horses that are not mature. So that's fine too. If he's fast and he's not mature, he's going to the paddock because he's got his whole 3-year-old, latter 2-year-old year and 3-year-old year in front of him. If he doesn't make a 2-year-old, it doesn't matter. If he's fast and mature and wins a Coolmore, well, young Steve will have a problem.
I'll take the Coolmore as a 3-year-old. We can let him rest up as a 2-year-old, Steve.
Yeah. So Mick, assuming let's put the positive blinkers on. Assuming goes well and his jump out Friday, was it, and then goes to the official one on Wednesday. That goes well. What would the program from there be?
You know what? I nearly run him during the Carnival in the race down the straight, the Maribyrnong. You've got debutant. You've got a September 25 900 metre race, which I don't like that race much. Doesn't mean anything, you know. It's nice, but I don't think it means enough.
Yeah.
And if you know, the big prizes are in the autumn.
Yeah.
So if you can get one run pre-Christmas and then spell him, you'll get your timing right. But I don't want to run him just for the sake of running him. So all up to, you know, a day before the race, if I see things I don't like and I have to scratch him, well, you have to scratch him, you know. But I'd nearly run him during the Carnival.
Yep.
Maribyrnong.
Okay.
And that's a great race. That's a great, you know, traditional race for good horses, you know, put it that way.
Yep.
Yeah, which is an amazing race, and some very, very, very good horses have won the Melbourne on plate. There's no doubt about that over the Spring Carnival. So that's just fingers crossed. And again, maybe getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but it sounds tremendous at this stage. Back to the stallion making way, when it comes back to it, I go, what Vicky goes, if they're showing a little bit more interest in the girls than they should be at the moment, how hard is it to make that decision to geld a particular horse?
It depends on degree. When you say showing a bit of interest, that's fine. Like, you know, I've had colts in there that have made stallions that we walk a filly past, and of course they sing out and scream out, and not too stupid about it, but it's the degree of which is the thing. And you know, you'll get like an alpha male type colt who will want to attack another colt and try and dominate the herd, and then they don't concentrate on racing, do they? So it's like the degree of, it's not whether they do or they don't, it's how bad they do it if they do it. And like I said, you know, in that barn that I'm talking about, we keep fillies out of there to the best of our ability, unless we've got an overflow. But yeah, colts and geldings, so they're never tempted.
So you've got one on your hands right now, Mick, with Profiteer. Yeah. Yep. Going to the Moya Saturday week.
Yeah. So he has to win a Group 1. He hasn't won a Group 1 yet. No, you know what? I couldn't get him right in the slip. I just couldn't catch him right. You know, the extra week, we lost a week because it got deluge.
Oh, that's right.
And then Western Sydney, so hot that day. It was muggy, and you know what it's like at Rose Hill. There's not like Randwick where it's on the coast. And, you know, I was basically watching that horse melt before my eyes, and I just felt he was stressed. And I know he took off on the way around to the barriers with Huey Bowman on, and they're all the signs that are massive stress in your colt, you know. And they are a bit temperamental, and you do have to manage them, and they do have to be in the zone, and he is a nice horse. He's brilliantly fast, but he has to win a Group 1. So he has to win the Moya or he has to win the Coolmore.
And that's to, but then, you know, take that sort of reputation to the Stallion barn, and of course that sort of justifies that price. Ayrton is another beautiful horse you've got at the moment. I think 6 starts, 5 wins, racing this Saturday, heading towards the Golden Eagle eventually.
Yeah, he'll be hard to beat, and he got gelded in New Zealand, so you can't blame me for that. He was, yeah, we bought him as a gelding, you know, so. Yeah, he'll be hard to beat Saturday for sure. And then I'm not sure what we do with him then, but I reckon if he gets a rating, if he wins on Saturday, his rating will go up to the point where we might nearly get a run in the Epsom, which is 1.5 mil. So it's 4-year-old in the Epsom, doable race. And I think a mile is his best distance. And I did ask Gerald Ryan about that 1,500 metres at Rose Hill, called the Golden Eagle, and he said the 1,500 at Rose Hill is more like a mile anyway, because I know, you know, you can get short, sharp 1,500s, and you can get 1,500s on certain tracks where it drags them out a bit, you know, the stamina. And so I think for 7.5 million, worth more than the Cox Plate, that is a race restricted to 4-year-olds that you've got to, we have put a circle around it at this point anyway.
Yeah, 7.5 million. It is incredible prize money. Then again, you know, plenty of people say you need a 2,000 metre horse to win the Epsom at Randwick.
I reckon he's a 2,000 metre horse. And you know what? If it wasn't for the big prize money in Sydney, I would be setting that horse for the Cox Plate. And I was tempted to run him in the Memsey, but he was going to be first up, and I just thought, no, I don't know about that. But I reckon his best distance will be between a mile and 2,000 metres.
Mick, we thank you so much for your time. We know how busy you are and how long your days are. For the VIC Hustlers owners, we're delighted to have you on board. They've got the right man in charge of Eureka Storm. We certainly hope that that plan comes to fruition. I know it's a plan to maybe be there during the Carnival. Melbourne plate would be fantastic, and all the very best. We know our horse is in very, very good hands with you, mate, and thanks again for your time.
Thanks so much, Mick.
Big Hustlers, go Storm. Boo, boo.
He's also a Melbourne Storm supporter and a Eureka Storm supporter, we should point out. Mick Price.
That's it. Melbourne Eureka Storm.
Yeah, go the Storm. Everyone will be cheering for the Storm now.
Go the Storm.
Thanks, Mick.
Good on you, Mick. Thanks so much, mate. Awesome.
Thanks, Steve, to all our owners that joined us from the VIC Hustlers, and also the Queensland Rogues, and also the New South Wales Tycoons. And if you're not involved, well, you should be involved. As you mentioned, to be involved with a 2-year-old that may well be racing over the Carnival in Melbourne. That is a dream come true, and that's what racing's all about. Thanks again for your time. I hope you enjoyed Mick Price, and we'll be delving into our other trainers in coming weeks.